I would like to talk about the way God provides housing, and from my own experience. You must remember that when Dorothy and I were married, we were married in 1950. It's a long time ago, and at that time it was very difficult to find housing. It was soon after the war, and everybody was crying out for a place to live, and we were also training. During that time, Dorothy, when we got married, our first residence was in Bible college. We went up to BTI in Glasgow, and we were there for 2 years, and then we moved down to London. I was in the London Missionary School of Medicine, and for a year we lived in Essex. The only accommodation we could get was with Ma Emblem in Romford, and she offered to have us there. Of course we had to pay our way in all these things, but the Lord supplied. I'm not going to go into all that now, but the fact was that we were in these different places, and actually in each case it was quite miraculous. Dorothy had found some part-time work with her nursing, and in doing so she'd had to declare that she was married, and of course they immediately wanted to know about her husband. Her husband had got no record of national insurance, no record of any sort of financial dealings with the government. So I was hauled in. I had a letter report to their office in Romford, and it was very worrying to me. And when they'd never met anybody like me before, that I'd actually been working, doing these things, apparently for nothing, and they hadn't been giving me anything. How do you live? Well, of course I was living by faith. We were praying and trusting the Lord, and the Lord supplied in wonderful ways, in practical ways, and that's how we were living. But they didn't understand that. And I was sitting in this sort of cubicle thing, a hatchway. I was on the outside, and there was this official there, and I was trying to explain the way of faith to this official, and he couldn't believe me. And just at that moment, a man walked behind those sitting, the officials. He was obviously a supervisor in charge. He walked past and he said, "Oh, hello Edwin, what are you doing here?" He knew me, and I thought, wow. I said, "Well, I've had to come in because of this." And when he saw the thing, he said to the man dealing with me, "Just leave him to me." And he said to me, "Come with me into this special room. They've got a room to talk." And so he went in, and we talked it all the way through, and he fixed it up, and I didn't have to go back there at all. But for him to come there on that day, at that moment, and recognize me and help me through what was to me a very embarrassing situation. Isn't that amazing? When you've been doing that for a while, you begin to think, this isn't going to last like this. We need to have accommodation of our own. And so we began to pray about that. Does the Lord want to stay here? And we got the impression that he did. We needed a house, and we got to pray for a house. Well, we made inquiries. I wrote to the London, it was all London County Council. They'd bought the whole area, and they were building all these houses were brand new. And I wrote to the council asking if we could get a council house. They gave me a very curt no. This is only for the people that qualify. They have to be on our housing list and so forth. So a bit later on I was still concerned, and I wrote again, and I said, well, we're working among your people and we need a place to stay to do this. And I told them a bit more about it. So they invited us to do that. Tell us what you're doing. So eventually I told them the whole story. And they heard about the hundreds that were coming, literally hundreds. On a Sunday afternoon we'd get 300 children sitting there for Sunday school. That was a regular thing. And so we told them about this. And I said, we need accommodation. Well, I may not have it exactly in the right sequence, but eventually when they found out what we were doing, they said, go to the office on the estate and tell them who you are. We've been in touch, and you go and choose any house you like. Wasn't that wonderful? Choose any house you like. And we went and had a look around, and we saw a house just being completed. They were still painting it, and we said, now that would do. And we went into that house and it became our home. Our first house. God meets the needs, and he goes on all sorts of details. We had our first house, and we were praying about all this. And while we were there, what did we got to do with curtains? You don't think of curtains. And we said, oh, well, we need curtains. And we joked about it. We said, well, we don't. We got some whitening. We could whitewash the window and pretend we're decorating. We weren't decorating. And we do that. And anyway, we didn't get as far as that, because here we were with our first bits of things, furniture, and a long way from our folk who'd know us. And suddenly a car drew up, a small car drew up outside our house. Oh, look who's there. They were the in-laws of the man that was leading the Sunday school and a few other things, Bert Howard. I said, oh, we heard you were moving in. Now to this day I don't know how they heard. I've no idea who told them, or who told them the address, or how they got there. But well, they got the car. But so we got there. It was very nice to see you. And anyway, we brought you a few things, and out came the few things, like brooms and brushes and all this sort of stuff, ordinary stuff which we hadn't got, but they had brought. Just amazing. We were so touched by it all, and especially because I was trying to do curtains. Now this is an important story, because we said, well, we need curtains. Well, we've got some curtains. And they put the curtains up, and they put a curtain up there, and then said, oh, what a shame, it's too short. And it was about, I don't know, 5-6 inches too short. And I actually said, well, the Lord knew the measurements. He'll know what it's all about. So I said, try another curtain. And they tried another curtain, and it was the right size. What is the miracle is that they told me, well, these curtains belong to their parents. So you can imagine it's quite a distance. These curtains belong to their parents who had passed on, and for some reason they decided to keep them. They were in a cupboard, been there for years, I suppose. And they said, well, Edwin might need them, so they brought them out to me. And that was how it was. Just amazing. so we found that there were, that's the point, where they were, this elderly couple had lived, the windows were as they are in this house, I think. In a lot of the council houses, the windows in the upper story are shorter than the windows in the ground floor. So you've got two sizes, and that's exactly what they'd got. And when they first started to put the curtains up, they'd put the ones that belonged upstairs. And then they found that and so we had curtains for every window and all the right size. God knows. And that's not the only time that has happened, but I won't bore you with all the rest. But that is an amazing one, isn't it?